just an absolute explosion of work in North Carolina. And I think that there's a lot that we're going to learn today about where those numbers are and what that means and how it specifically addresses or points to, I should say, places in the industry where we need to be working very, very hard, not only hard, but very quickly on our efforts. So with that, let me say something else too. We've got 2 hours set aside for today's meeting, but it is not necessary for us to take the entire 2 hours unless there's an issue that comes up that we feel we need to carry on that long. So I'm willing to give this as much time as is necessary, but we don't also need to just have dead air time. So with that, I don't need a 15-minute introduction. I will just turn it over to Mr. Guy Gaster and ask him to get started on the updates. And that will lead us into our next discussions, I'm sure.
Great, thanks, Susie. If I could have the technical team, let me be able to share my screen. All right. Okay. All right. So, of course, you guys know me with that. So looking as an update and keeping going from when we last met. You're seeing it? Okay, my apologies. Let me go back.
I don't have any audio. Is anyone having trouble hearing?
We're having trouble hearing you, Susie. I think everything else is good.
You're on feedback. We're getting echo. Eric, is that your home studio?
No, that's
good.
The office.
Does this now share better? Okay, apologies. You would think this far in I would have mastered the online presentation, but as with everything else, there's always hiccups. So continuing from when we last met, taking a look at calendar year 2020, we've had 72 projects that have filed their intent to film form here with the office, and that includes 18 projects that have been approved for the grant rebate program that have had activities taking place in the state during this year. That's resulted in more than 4,400 crew hires, 900 talent opportunities, closing in on 15,000 extra opportunities. And here's the big number. To date, we're looking at $331 million being spent directly in state by these productions. And we've had filming taking place or scheduled to take place in all 8 of the state's prosperity zones. So again, getting filming throughout the state. A quick look at what these projects that I mentioned, what they're showing for, and these are the bigger productions once again, but we've got 4 traditional, if you will, broadcast television series, 3 streaming series, 5 feature films. We've got 5 made-for-TV movies and or direct-to-streaming movies. There's been 17 drop-in, more travel-related shows, 2 full-season reality shows, and 30-plus in-state projects, so more local filmmaker type projects there. So when looking at how this compares, this is a chart you've all become familiar with, and I've tried to keep the presentations very similar, so there's a good basis. See that 331 million is our third highest year since 2007. And I would be remiss if I did not say, as I said previously in February, this number is only going to go up, and I truly believe we will eclipse 2012's high of 377 million by the time we're at the end of the year. Taking a look, of course, with the spending also correlates with job opportunities. You can see that we're at our third highest also there. It is interesting. The spending doesn't always mean more job opportunities or the most, but they do line up correspondingly. A lot of that has to deal with the background extra numbers of those, but again, we are doing quite well on that jobs front, as well as the spending on it. I did want to take a minute. We don't talk as much. A lot of the information that I share with you guys, I can't share all the information because of they being active economic development projects, but we do have some projects that had completed in the last year or two that have some release dates or more information. The first four on your screen are feature-length films. The Eyes of Tammy Faye from Searchlight Pictures comes out in September. And then we have a trio of horror, slasher, suspense movies with Halloween Kills coming in October. Then Scream will be in January, and the middle of January. And then The Black Phone, which filmed as the project Static, will be at the end of January. We're still waiting to hear in regards to when Hightown Season 2 may air on the Starz Network. And then it's not quite a date set yet, but the series This Country that filmed in and around the Wilmington area has been renamed Welcome to Flatch. And that is for Fox Network, and Fox has said that will be a mid-season pickup. So we'll be looking for that in the first part of calendar year 2022. But that will be something to keep your eyes out on, as well as some other projects, coincidentally with Fox Network, later in the calendar year 2022. Finally, if you did not see yesterday in Frank, which shot in 2019 in the state and was a very key target for us. And this was a project that premiered at Sundance and was picked up by Amazon and was released around Thanksgiving this past year. Uncle Frank received an Emmy nomination for Outstanding Television Movie, and those awards will be handed out on the 19th. So again, that is a very quick look at where things stand as this year's progressing. Apologies for the very quick screen, but I wanted to go back and leave it on this one for just a little bit again, so you can see where the state is going in terms of spending, and that this will go down as one of our best, if not the best, years of record in terms of spending by productions in the state. And with that, Madam Chair, I hand it back over.
Thank you, Guy. That is very exciting. A lot of you all are feeling this impact. I think already a lot of people on this call are certainly, hopefully, engaged. And I know we're missing quite a few people because they're in the midst of shooting. I'm trying to pull up my agenda. There it is. Excuse me just a second. I want to make sure I stay on task. Okay. So I think what's next is a legislative update. And so I'll give y'all a quick overview of where things stand in the budget process. For those of you who don't follow this closely, the executive branch in the first year of the biennium, which would be the even years, I mean the odd years, which is this year, the governor's office produces a budget for the next 2 pen to paper and developing their own budget or accepting the governor's budget, and oftentimes of some variation therein. So that process, once it's handed over by the governor, that in the odd year, the first chamber to address the 2-year budget is the Senate budget process. In the last couple of 3 weeks was some tweaks to the film incentive, or excuse me, the film grant program that they're not big tweaks, but they are important adjustments to the program that I think modernizes the economies of production in 2021. So I feel pretty confident that those initiatives have what's laid out in the Senate budget have come out of very collaborative discussions, both among people in this group, certainly the folks in Governor Cooper's office, as well as members of the General Assembly. So this is very encouraging, and it's been kind of low key, and I think maybe that's a good thing. There's a lot of other very important issues on the agenda for our state and our country coming out of the pandemic. So, but that was really, it was really encouraging to see that. What happens next is that they have submitted it to the House for their review and their input. And then at some point, the 2 chambers will come together and agree on some things, and they'll put it to a vote. That is probably most certainly not going to be before August. So we may be looking at August as somewhere in the middle of August, realistically, to have a budget presented to Governor Cooper for his signature or his veto. So not knowing much more about the document than that, that is what I can tell you on the Senate side. Are there any questions on that? Okay. There's another budget item in play right now called the American Recovery Plan. And that is the money from the federal government that comes to the state. If you all will remember, the last act passed by Congress allowed for local governments, counties and cities and towns their money went from the federal government for the pandemic recovery, went directly to those entities. Any state related money that was going to be overseen directly by the state comes to the executive branch. In other words, it comes to Governor Cooper's office, and then Governor Cooper submitted to the General Assembly for their approval a list or another budget that dealt with the CARES Act money. So that has been submitted, I believe, to the House and the Senate. Not sure where it stands. There was some money in that budget line item that dealt with historic sites, which is a really good thing and does fit into our needs to some degree, and also some infrastructure related money. So we don't know where that's going to go, if anywhere, in the General Assembly, and not much has been said about it since it was submitted. So stay tuned on that. But obviously we're on everybody's radar right now in terms of what the industry is doing and how well it's doing, I believe, and how these programming initiatives may take take us the next step further in growing the business in North Carolina. So with that, I will be happy to entertain questions. I know that's a lot procedurally to put at you, but we've been treated well in all the documents so far. Okay.
Susie, I had
All
a
right.
couple questions or
Sure. Go ahead, Eric.
statements, and I know you and I have talked about it, but just wanted to voice it here. In the proposed budget, there were some encouraging changes, but you know me, I'm always pushing for a little bit more. And you know, one of the line items, you know, we've talked about is the minimum spend for a television series. It had been $1 million per episode. And as I've mentioned in the past, that rules out a lot of unscripted television that'll never, you know, have a per episode fee spend of $1 million per episode. So that's the proposed reduction is to 500,000 per episode, which is a step in the right direction. But I would love to push for either the per episode piece of that being removed, so that it's either just a minimum spend of 500,000, or even if it were $1 million for the series, because let's say there are 10 episodes, 10 episodes spending, you know, 300,000 would still be valuable to the state. So that small tweak would open up opportunities for a lot of series that just would never hit 500 per episode. So that's the one. And of course, the other that I always talk about is this speaks of funds to encourage the production of motion pictures, television shows, movies for television, but would love to include post-production in that for reasons we've discussed in the past. So I'm not sure how that all works, but before things get finalized and signed off and it's too late, just would love to keep those points alive.
Eric, just as a reminder, in terms of post-production, posts can qualify under the current program. Now, I realize that those would be very expensive post-production costs to hit those minimums that are required, but we do permit or allow, if someone applied for posts only and were hitting those minimum spends, then they would indeed be eligible for the rebate.
Guy, thank you for that clarification. I did not realize that, even as much as I've studied it. So I appreciate that. That's something that we could actually really consider maybe in future policy discussions. So great. Anybody else with questions? Comments? Okay. Concerns? Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Guy. Next item on the agenda, I'm going to turn this over just to a couple of our committee or council members for discussion, and that is workforce development. We are seeing, obviously, such tremendous demand in North Carolina that we've got a good problem. And that good problem is we are looking real hard at a need to build our crew resources in North Carolina. And thankfully, Eric Johnson and Lauren Vilchik, Tim Bourne, myself, Johnny Griffin joined us last week. Camille Bourne from the North Carolina School of the Arts, a recent graduate, have been meeting as a subcommittee am I missing anyone, Eric?
I don't think so.
Okay, good. We've been meeting on a bi-weekly basis to discuss the creation of the marketing piece. I'm happy to report that we have, for that piece, marketing and education piece that we saw that was produced in Louisiana. We have raised quite a bit of money so far, with a special shout out to AT&T and Trey Rabin for his initial contribution. The local 491 is contributing, Wilmington Regional Film, and I'm not going to get all of them named, but we know we've reached out, and we are hopeful that we're confident that we're going to reach our goal of $25,000 to $26,000 in that neighborhood to make this a reality. And I believe I read yesterday that Winston-Salem, the Triad Regional Commission is also considering it. So we are, I'm sorry?
Yes, this is Rebecca. I'm sorry. It
Hey,
just says
Rebecca.
iPhone. So, yes, we are going to also contribute. So I'm appreciative to everyone's efforts.
And we've also reached out to the Charlotte Regional. So, or if we haven't, that is coming, Beth, if you're on the call. So, so at any rate, we feel very good about that. That is coming together, and hopefully we're going to have something in the next meeting that will, our next meeting that we can at least take a quick look at. So, with that being said, all of those discussions have, as you can imagine, led us to other initiatives and other discussions that are clearly important to North Carolina. And they are, and the number one thing that keeps popping up in our discussions is workforce development with a focus on diversity and inclusion. And so with that, I would like to ask Eric to, if you would, Eric, give us a few words on your thoughts and maybe any activities that you personally have been involved in. And then maybe Johnny can speak to what's happening specifically in New Hanover County, or what we hope may happen. I will, and I'll fill in any gaps if we can start there. That would be great.
Well, specifically on the issue of work, the diversity and inclusion, you know, that's huge for so many reasons, but a lot of the major studios really have that front and center. I know Disney and National Geographic are really focused on that. Amazon, I imagine Netflix and all of them are really looking at seeing an improvement in diversity, you know, in front of and behind the camera, and the stories that are being told. We've had some conversations, different combinations of us with Array Crew specifically is a database that Ava DuVernay and her company have created to try to have a resource available to studios for below the line diverse talent. And so we're trying to get more people registered in that database, trying to get them, they may even help do some collaboration with our marketing piece, just to talk about how important this issue is to them, and with the workforce development and with an increase in diversity in our North Carolina crews, what that might mean to them for future productions. So I think that's, you know, just a top line view of it. And I'm not sure how much your little Johnny wants to speak to about some other initiatives.
Yeah, so New Hanover County has allocated some money from the Recovery Act that they got to be able to use for job training in different fields, but have included the film industry in that. And so they're currently working on a program trying to get that put together. Don't really have an exact timeline on that yet. But the positive news is that they do have money. They have included film and want to help us with trying to get people trained up in the industry. So we're hoping that can start soon, but there's still some things being worked out there. So we'll see how that moves forward.
So yes, that's great. Thank you, Johnny. We're waiting for that program to get sort of up and running, and with Step Up and local partners, and we will surely make that happen. As like I was speaking to earlier, the CARES Act money that's coming down that goes directly to the municipalities And the county governments, I think it's like a little bit like drinking from a fire hose. New Hanover County in particular worked really, really quickly to put together a program and a plan for how they were going to spend their CARES Act money. And luckily, they were thinking ahead about workforce development in that context. So, you may, the reason I wanted Johnny to kind of talk a little bit about that is because it may be something that other regional directors may want to try to consider for their respective regions, that kind of investment in growth and development of our next workforce, because we really are in a place where we need to be thinking about that. The last thing I will mention on workforce, well, maybe not the last thing, but one other initiative, and I'm speaking locally here, but I imagine it is going on across the state, is that each council of government has its own workforce development board. And the Cape Fear Workforce Development Board has been working with their board members, and of which Darla McGlamory, one of our council members, she runs the local for, I believe, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. Am I right about that, y'all? Is that right, Johnny? You can nod. At any rate,
North Carolina, South Carolina, and then the Savannah area, not Atlanta.
Savannah area. Thank you. I knew I wasn't quite 100% on that. But Darla has worked on that group, and through that group, they have actually succeeded in placing a couple of folks in already on set for those resources. So anybody that would like to talk a little more about how that works, I don't know. It seems to me that the Council of Governments are kind of a thing that just kind of works and churns in the background. But the workforce development piece, where it may not have been years ago as effective as every one of us would have hoped it would be, not just in our industry, but across the board, there's a lot of money flowing through those entities right now. And with that comes opportunities. And I believe that Cape Fear Workforce Development is working off a special grant program. And that is how they have initiated these couple of 3 people that have already been placed in the last few weeks. So we'd like to see that duplicated all over the state. The other interesting thing about that is that these 3 people, I think 2 of the 3 have been placed. All of which met a minority or low income criteria. So this was I think really a success story. And I know it sounds like not a lot because it's just 3 people, but it's 3 people more than we had potentially last week. And I'm sure that there's other really good work like this going on. I think Lauren was not able to be on the call today. Lauren, speak up if I'm wrong. She's not on the call. Okay. And then next month or next time we meet, hopefully Lauren will have a chance to talk to us about what's going on at the School of the Arts. So we're excited about her graduate program. I think that really North Carolina makes an enormous investment in film training across the state every year through our community college programs, through the School of the Arts, through UNCW and other programs. And I'm hopeful that this group can be creative in thinking about ways we funnel those students and others into a workforce flow that we can begin to really build the crew base. So sorry about that in the background. Please, anyone that you have something to add to that. Jonas, I think you had something to say briefly about Amazon and some of what's coming down from them.
Well, I know maybe you guys saw this, but Amazon came out with a basically inclusion guidelines, essentially. It was a big report that came out, which sort of suggested, targets really for what they were going to try to achieve. And it was very clear. And I expect, even if the other studios are doing it sort of in theory, I expect it to sort of become industry standard. Honestly, I feel like it's all gonna head that way. Amazon just got out in front of it a little bit. It's out, it's available if you guys haven't seen it. It came out maybe a couple weeks ago.
I think Disney came out right before theirs, or National
Yeah.
Geographic, around the same time.
Yeah. So it's definitely, so the idea of training more crew just for us in North Carolina, but especially diverse crew, is going to be crucial for us in helping to secure more work in the future for sure.
I think obviously we led with diversity, but you know, something we'll try to achieve in this marketing video that we've mentioned is just increasing awareness of the crew positions, because as you ask any 18-year-old that thinks they're interested in this industry, what are the roles you're interested in? They're going to say director or cinematographer or some of those things, and they don't even know about the crew positions. So something that we can do hopefully in the messaging, but also in other efforts, maybe presentations at the community colleges and presentations at high schools, to make folks aware. We'd love to have, you know, some of the top comments after viewing this marketing piece is, wow, I had no idea that there were all these roles available in the film and television industry. We have a wealth of talent here in the state, and we're not even scratching the surface yet. So obviously within that, diversity would be taken care of, but this would be something that would benefit everybody ultimately.
If I can, I do want to say one of the things, I know we've talked a little bit about the Wilmington area and getting some of the workforce working through how much time is someone on a job, if you will. To that end, I think that there are potentially some opportunities that aren't necessarily directly on sets that can give some folks exposure to the industry that are maybe with some of our more permanent studios in terms of both facilities and that are doing local production work that, you know, maybe we haven't looked at before that could be there. Eric, I know you guys at Trailblazer have a pretty extensive internship program, but looking at possibly partnering up with groups like Trailblazer that have year-round work. I do think that as I have looked into this, that is one thing that I found as a hurdle, if you will, is that amount of time on the job. Obviously, the longer the better, particularly with some of these programs that are looking to use some federal funding with it. It's a little bit of a different story when you talk about it as an internship or an apprenticeship and are tying in the colleges or universities. But certainly, again, looking at workforce development, you know, the things, thinking outside the box, as Chairperson Hamilton mentioned, would be looking at some of these other groups, I think, and how we might be able to get them to be involved and give some experience as well.
And let's not forget that, you know, in terms of the development, some of the skills needed, lighting and camera work and that sort of thing. There are corporate videos, there's nonprofits, there's tons of documentaries. So those basic skills transfer, so it doesn't just have to be the feature. As a matter of fact, the odds are they're going to get a chance for some more hands-on, and many of the people in those areas are willing to mentor or apprentice. They're looking for help too. So many opportunities to, you know, pay the bills. It won't always be an amazing scripted series or film, but lighting's lighting, and, you know, light bill's a light bill. So, you know.
You know, Eric, I think that raises a really interesting point that oftentimes we do overlook, and that, like what I would guess that we've seen the production of trade related materials and smaller, you know, just commercials. I mean, anything that you can think of that gives you time on a set. I think sometimes we don't think about those when we think about job training. So and those are the kinds of things that are really happening probably more up your way and west. I think that there's some stuff going on in Winston-Salem region that Rebecca may know about. I think Lauren mentioned it on our last subcommittee meeting. So, you know, if we can get that granular on some of this stuff with what y'all do every day, it could begin to add up and make a difference. And so you might want to consider reaching out to your local workforce development groups in your regions through the Council of Governments, and seeing what kinds of partnerships or what kind of benefits they may get from your being involved, and vice versa. So that's kind of a public service announcement, something that we've seen begin to work here in the Wilmington region. So, okay. Are there any other comments on that? Anybody would like to share some good news other than all the good news we've heard so far? Bill, you were telling us about some changes on the lot at Screen Gems. You want to share? You're still on mute, hon.
How's that?
That's good.
We've made quite a bit of improvements to the facility. We've always kept the insides of the stages and the offices up to date, changing and modernizing lighting and heating systems and such. But the exterior just kind of just got along with it. But Mr. Cooney decided to spend the money, which was really desperately needed, on a new parking lot. So we just took everything up and relayed the foundation and put down new asphalt. It looks great. One of the lighting and grip employees who rides a bicycle came up the first day after it was finished. He goes, "Man, that's so different riding around this lot without all those filled potholes." So, we're buying a bunch of new golf carts. We're improving power source to be able to accommodate dailies. Just little things here and there. And we've got a list of things that once we get beyond COVID, are things that we want to add and improve to benefit the clients. So, yeah, Susie, you should come over here. It doesn't look anything like it did before.
Oh, that's terrific. Well, no, it's always looked great, but it's encouraging.
It looked better. It looked great.
It looks better than it did. So that's awesome. And I was just getting ready to say maybe we should do a field trip. Council goes to Screen Gems.
Well, that would be great, but we can't allow anyone on the stages. They're still in all of the productions still have very tight COVID protocols going on.
Well, that's a good problem to have. So, and a very good point to make. So maybe we'll wait 6 months and see where we stand at that point, and then
you can always walk around and look at the exterior of the stages and admire the parking lot. But
nothing like an all-span building. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, Bill. And y'all forgive me. I do just want to give everyone an opportunity to chime in. And it occurred to me yesterday that I never have asked our regional directors to just sort of give us a quick overview of what's happening in their regions. And I would like to ask if the three of you would mind doing that. And I'm happy to pick on Johnny first because he knows where I live and he can come and get me if he needs to. Johnny, would you mind sharing with us a little about what's going on?
Yeah. Guy's report kind of summed it up. This is an amazing year for us with the amount of work that we have here. I think about it every day, but I was kind of looking at it from a different angle just the other day. And I was thinking that, we've currently got 1, 2, 3, 4 television series that are filming here right now. We had 2 that were here earlier this year. So that's 6 series that all have the potential of renewing and being back again in 2022. So, all production is great. They all spend money, but with feature films, they come, they spend, and then they go away. And hopefully it generates additional work. But with these series, all of these series, or most of these series, are looking like they could have the potential for multiple years, either based on the content that we're dealing with or the companies that we're dealing with. And so as good as things are this year, these same projects could actually be our baseline for next year. Meaning that if we're doing $300 million in business this year, which we grew into, that sort of becomes a starting point for next year. And then additional projects built on top of that. So it's just an amazing time right now for people to be working in the industry, for people trying to get into the industry. A lot of discussions with potential new vendors, different people that are trying to figure out how they can benefit from the film industry and help the film industry. So again, it's a great time to be working here right now. Those of us that have been around a long time have certainly seen dips in business. I mean, I know in 2019, we were excited that was our best year we had in 5 years. And it was less than 50% of the business that we're going to do this year. So again, we're excited and, appreciate everybody's help across the board and just making this a great time and hope to keep it growing.
Thank you, Johnny. Appreciate you sharing that with us. Rebecca, you have anything you want to share? Winston-Salem?
Sure. The exciting news is I actually have someone coming in to scout the region tomorrow. So that is very promising. It's for a feature film. And if we land it, that will be the first feature film that has benefited from the grant that has actually filmed in the Piedmont Triad. So I will be very happy to finally have something of the larger scale that benefits from the grant here. Other than that, we've got a couple of commercial productions going on, and one in downtown Winston and one in Mount Airy, and that's about it right now. But but I appreciate everybody's work on improving upon the film grant. And I also wanted to let you all know, in case you haven't seen it, Jonas and Guy on separate interviews just had really great news segments featured on different channels and or networks, and great job, you two. So just wanted to say that too.
Thank you, Rebecca. And Jonas, my daughter just informed me that the trailer for Outer Banks comes out today. Is that correct?
It does.
Well,
I think
she's really excited.
All right. Yeah, we like that.
In fact, she's already seen it, she tells me. So
I love that.
a real fan. So last but not least, Beth, I think I saw you on the call.
Hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hey, Beth, how you doing?
Oh, good,
Yes.
good. I'm great. Thank you so much.
Good.
We just finished shooting. They're going to be wrapping to the end of the month. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret from Lionsgate. We just wrapped The Evolution of Nate Gibson. It was an independent show that was here. There are 2 small television movies that are just finished filming and they're wrapping. We're still working on commercials, reality shows, some still photography, and we're just continuing to work new leads as they come in.
Sorry, it wouldn't unmute. Well, that is great news. We really want to reinforce that this is a statewide effort, and that the goal is ultimately to benefit the entire state of North Carolina, which I think it does in many ways. And so I appreciate y'all sharing your updates with us. With that, it really does finish out our agenda. I'm happy to entertain any good news that anybody would like to share. Bad news, call somebody else. But in all seriousness, if anyone on the call would like to just share any information, be happy to let you do so now. The governor's office had an economic development announcement that was scheduled for 10 o'clock this morning. It may have flashed up on your screens as to what that is by now. He was holding a news conference, so that he was not able to be with us today, but nor was his immediate staff. So we are in constant communication with them, and we have the full support of the administration, and we're just going to keep moving forward with our good news and work to grow this industry on your behalf. So one last thing I will do is I want to thank staff from the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. We have Jennifer Fontes, who's on the line with us. We have Matt Zayer, who's on the phone with us, and I believe Sonia Laney is as well. So thank you to the three of you and to the full department for continuing to support our administrative needs. And unless there's anything else, I will adjourn us. Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody. You got a whole hour and 15 minutes back.
Thank you, guys. Good to see everyone.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks, Susie.
Thank you. Bye.
Chris, it's okay with